I think a lot of us who are faculty think about assessment in an individual class with students. What are they learning? How do I know they're learning? Is my exam, my quiz, my writing assignment getting at that? If so, keep using it. If not, maybe alter it, maybe change it up and try it again a different semester, maybe even the same semester. I'd like to think about expanding that to a department level, maybe to a program level, and finally to the college level, which is what I and my partner, Robin Bowden, have been trying to achieve here at Century.
One of the things that has become apparent is that across the campus, we have many examples of how assessment is taking place at the class, department, and program level. And I think that as we have started collecting data on our core competencies, one of the things that it has done is led people to start rethinking what they do and how they do it. Because I am serving as one of the co-leaders, it means I get to be in on a lot of conversations where you hear from different departments and programs about how they do what they do. And so it's interesting, we have some departments and programs that have common assignments and how they use those to put together to make sure that across the board, students that take that particular course are all meeting these core competencies associated with the class.
We know from our industry partners the things that students need in order to get jobs. And so we have a portfolio show at the end. This is a key assessment for our program Learning Outcomes, in which students produce a booklet of showing their material, or it's a computer program or a website that has good examples of the things they've created. And we know that they create this and a month later they can be out interviewing for jobs because we've assessed that they have something that's job ready.
For instance, in teaching history, we have a history state transfer pathway that began this year. This process has already made me realize the ways that I need to go back and revise some of the aspects of the transfer pathway at Century. And we've started a project across the people teaching history classes is taking one of the program learning outcomes. We are doing a pre and post test to make sure that we have an iterative assessment process from the beginning to start collecting that information about what our students know coming into the class, what they know coming out of the class, and figuring out ways that we can use that information to help the state transfer pathways to make sure students are achieving those things that they need.
In student affairs, the learning outcomes are aligned with the Council for the Advancement of Standards, otherwise known as the CAS standards. These CAS standards were developed by a consortium of professional higher education associations that have set standards for how we deliver services and quality programs in student affairs, student services, and student development programs.
With the development of the core competencies, Academic Affairs did early work to connect the line or the dots over to the Minnesota Transfer Curriculum and doing that student learning assessment. Student Affairs has certainly done assessment of student learning along the way in different pockets, but in recent years has been much more strategic about developing strategies and our plan for assessing student learning, and then also connecting that to the core competencies in particular.
Through Student Center, we collect data to assess program learning outcomes. One of the tools that we use is surveys. We do pre and post surveys to assess the programs. Our goal is for every student at Century College to be successful.
As data was collected initially for the MNTC Goal 7 on human diversity, we did have an individual who, thinking through the process, went back to her department and essentially found that there was a need to revise the course, that it was currently slotted for Goal 7 and it really should be a Goal 8 course.
So in the Veteran Services Department at Century College, we work with students to help them understand what external funding sources they have from the military to pay for their schooling. So I do these things called military preview nights, where I have new students and prospective students come to learn about their benefits in more detail. We always do an after event survey where I'm asking them, like, how did you learn about the event? But I also ask, how much do you think you knew about your benefits before attending this session and now as a result of coming to the session, which is helpful. But after learning more about the student learning outcomes and how do we actually assess learning, how do we know that learning took place, I realized that I wasn't really assessing their learning, I was assessing their perception of whether they had learned or not. And the perception doesn't necessarily mean that they got it. So I'm trying to give them these key points of who do you contact at the VA if your payments are off, or if you're having issues with your National Guard benefits, what's the phone number that you need to contact, or how do you know how much money you're going to get paid, and how do you know which classes the VA is going to pay for? All of those are really important, and they might think they've grasped it, but I needed to measure if they actually grasped it. So I changed our survey at the end to ask some more concrete details about questions like that to see if they could answer them. The first couple surveys I got back, I learned, oh man, they're not grasping what I need them to be grasping. So I went and actually changed my presentation for the preview nights to cover them in more detail, and I've also updated our website so that I have a place to point students to say, when you have these questions, here's where you can find the contact numbers. And a lot of that was missing before, and I didn't realize it until we started changing up our assessment of learning, and it taught me a lot too, that we needed to tighten it up a little bit.
I really think our nature as a comprehensive community and technical college is a huge strength, and one that I see in my role on the Academic Affairs and Standards Council, conversation across the campus, across fields. So leveraging that strength as we think about our colleagues who already use assessment tools that have been given to them from outside accreditation agencies, those of us on the liberal arts side can use them as models. So conversation is a strength here. The more chances we have for conversation, perhaps all college meetings, perhaps coming to the faculty development day, the more chances we have to talk to each other, the better we do at spreading assessment of student learning, institutionalizing it across campus.
One of the most helpful things is having two co-leads of assessment and student learning that we're able to bring into our department and talk about where we're at currently and where we want to go in terms of assessing student learning in our department. So it's been so helpful to build those relationships that help us support one another as colleagues.
What drew me to Century College is its compassionate approach to education. I have been supported by my colleagues in a very generous way from the first day when I was here. Now I know a lot of people, and their help and their support is in every aspect of my life, not only for myself in my life, professional life and personal life, in a very intimate way, but also with my work to support my students.
So as I'm communicating to my faculty friends, what I'd like to say is, it's not scary, it's something we do. It's something we don't document as well as we could, and that's what we're here to help people do.